Hello, everyone, and welcome to For the Love of Film, the series where I talk to different people about their love of film and what sparked it in the first place. And today I am joined by the fantastic Ren Vieira. Ren, how are you doing? Why don't you introduce yourself for the people at home?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I will try throughout this episode to live up to the name Fantastic. I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to talk films. It's my favorite thing to talk about, whether on camera or behind it. And I've been very much preparing for this because we've been talking a while about me
Mm,
being on the show since LFF.
mm.
So that's already last year, which is still weird to say, but let's do it. I'm excited.
Yeah, I remember. God, I think it was August. I did one of my episodes, and I usually put the request out of like, "Oh, if you want to be a part of this series, shoot me a
Mhm.
DM." And then I got like five or six, seven people all at once, including yourself, and I'm like,
Yes.
okay, I need to sort this backlog out first, and then I can start inviting people. So I'm slowly making my way through the backlog, and I'm glad I finally got to you because I've been looking forward to chatting to you about film and such like. But yeah, that was it. It feels weird to say that LFF was already last year. It doesn't feel like we've started a new year yet. I'm still
No,
trying to
no, we're still
process.
in that lull period. We're still last year, but we mean 2022, and that's
Mm.
already not the case.
I think what doesn't help is like here in the UK, we're still getting like the kind of leftovers of last year's
Yeah,
film releases, so it kind of still feels like we're in a weird lull of
yeah. I-
2023.
In Portugal, it's still the same. I
Mm.
came over here and I'm like, oh, things are going to change. I'm going to get 2023 movies in 2023, and that didn't happen.
Funnily enough, on that topic, I thought start. Usually, the first question I ask people is, "What's the most recent film you've seen that you loved, whether it's an old release or a new release?" But I thought, as this is the first episode of this series for 2024, and we've just come out of 2023, I thought it'd be good to kind of go over briefly what were some of your favorite films and least favorite films of last year, just kind of in a mini nutshell.
Shall I just give you my top 10 and then
Yeah,
bottom 10
yeah,
movies then?
yeah.
So some of my favorite movies from last year: The Killer by David Fincher,
Mm-hmm.
um, The Creator.
Mm-hmm.
Suzume is a movie not enough people are talking about. It's
Yeah.
one of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. Poor Things is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Iron Claw is fantastic. Oppenheimer, to no surprise. Barbie, to no surprise. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, that would be
Mm-hmm.
my number three. And then I think so far, like from 10 to 3, it's like movies that a lot of other people will have in their top 10.
Yeah.
And then these ones begin to not be as common. I've seen them, but they're not as
Mm.
common. My number two would be All of Us Strangers,
Yes.
which I
Yes.
think is the best screenplay from 2023.
Yeah.
And then my number one is the movie that made me love movies the most. When I was watching this movie, it was like,
Mm.
this is why I love movies. And that is John Wick Chapter 4.
Yeah.
Everything about this movie, everything about this franchise is just, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to see more
Mm.
of. It's prestige. It's not just prestige action filmmaking, it's just
Mm.
prestige filmmaking all around.
Mm. Yeah. No, I love that top 10. You've got quite a few in your top 10 that kind of bleed into mine. I wasn't a massive fan of The Killer, and that pains me to say considering Fincher's my favorite filmmaker, but I found that a bit underwhelming. But I love the fact the creator's in there. I love the fact
Yes.
Oppenheimer's in there. All of Us Strangers. I think when we both saw it at London Film Festival, you and me both, there was one, like, there's a couple of specific moments in that film that both clicked with us
Yeah.
immediately. That's for my fourth favorite film of last year because it just hit. I mean, the screening room at LFF was a mess in like
Yeah,
an
it was. You
emotional
could just
sense.
hear the all around.
Yeah, as soon as the credits rolled, you just heard like people sniffling and crying, and me. I was sat next
Hiding
to.
their face,
Yeah,
sitting in their seat. I need a breather.
yeah. I was sat next to Luke when at that
Mhm.
screening, and we didn't get up for the entirety of the credits. We just had to sit there and kind
Oh
of
wow.
just let it sit because we were both like, Christ.
Yeah, I was sitting next to Paul, and
Mm,
I know at one point I was in the zone. I was there feeling it in the moment, and he just
mm.
rubs my his hand on my shoulder. And then there was another situation where I did the same for him. Like, it's okay, it's okay. But then by the end, I just had to get out and
Mm.
drink some water, take a breather outside, and I was hungry too, so that didn't help.
Yeah, I don't think I cried that much. There were two films that really got me last year in terms of emotions. There was that, and then Guardians 3 both just ruined me.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
but for different purposes. Like Guardians was like the big old farewell, and I think it was the me knowing that we're not going to see that lineup again kind of instantly got me. And then with All of Us Strangers, it like gradually builds, and the more it builds, the more emotionally kind of devastating it gets, to
Yeah.
the point where like you get to
But
the
it's
end.
also comforting. I found
Mm,
it. It's like
mm,
there's a warm hug at the end of it.
yeah, no, especially the. I won't give away too much because it's not fully out in the UK yet, but there is a scene in a diner which
Yeah.
I think you could agree with me here that like that
Yeah,
does
yeah,
feel
yeah.
like it kind of is ripping your heart out, but it's putting it back in with a nice tender little pat at the same
Yeah,
time.
exactly.
So on the other end of the spectrum, what were some of your least favorite films from last year?
Ooh. So some of my least favorites, my bottom 10 would be Inside. This is
Mm-hmm.
Willem Dafoe starring, like, he's an art thief, he gets trapped inside an apartment.
Mm.
That's a really cool premise for 20 minutes, and then the movie keeps going. Unfortunately. Then I saw another one that's really terrible is The Machine.
Okay.
This is based. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the stand-up comedian Brett. I'm not even sure how to pronounce his last name, but Brett Kreischer or something like that.
Okay.
Um, so in his act, he tells the story of how when he was in college, they had this overseas trip to Russia, and
Mm.
in the train, he met the Russian mob, and so he
Mm.
partied all night with the Russian mob. So, and I really like that routine.
Mm.
So when you tell me they're gonna make a movie about that,
Mm.
like just that night, that trip, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting. But then
Mm.
the movie is not that. That's just like the prologue. And
Mm.
then the movie actually takes place like today. So he looks the way he looks now.
Mm.
And the Russian mob is coming back because he stole something from them without realizing.
Mm.
And it just doesn't work. It goes way too overboard while trying to be grounded. And it's one of those stories that is fun because it
Mm.
actually happened,
Yeah.
not because it's so impossible to believe. So
Mm.
uh
Okay.
another one is Netflix's The Strays. This came out
Okay.
early in the year, but a Netflix movie is at the bottom of my list. Should be
Mm.
no surprise. It's very much a movie that annoys you by the end because while you're in it, you're like, okay, this is interesting. Where's this going? Okay,
Yeah.
this new piece is interesting. Where's this going? And then the movie finally comes together and it's like, oh, okay, now we have a story. What are we going to do? Nothing,
Mm.
because the movie cuts to black and it ends.
Wow.
The same exact thing happened in Leave the World Behind. I don't know if you
Mm.
saw that one. I also found that one pretty terrible, but at least it had better performances about
Mm.
it. Um, Another one is Knights of the Zodiac. Now, I'm a big
Okay.
anime fan. I
Mm.
don't know if you are. I don't know if you've ever seen the anime Knights of the Zodiac, as it's
Mm.
known around the world, but also known as Saint Seiya. They
Mm-hmm.
made an anime adaptation of that this past year, and it's awful.
God.
It's terrible. It is so boring. It's one of those like when people ask me about what a good anime show or
Mm.
movie is. So, and I'm sorry if I'm wasting too much time on
No,
this
no, no,
one,
it's fine.
but when you watch anime, when you watch movies from Japan, you can tell that the storytelling sensibilities from that side of the world, from that cultural
Mm.
background, are completely different from ours.
Mm.
And so you'll have certain styles of characterization, certain styles of plot beats, how you
Mm.
organize a story to tell it in whatever genre it is. And
Mm.
if it comes from Japan,
Mm.
it's very different than if it comes from the US or from here or from Europe or whatever. And anime, it's exactly the same thing. So when you make these Americanized anime adaptations, immediately it's
Mm.
like this is too normal.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't make sense in this world.
Mm.
And so to me, that's why a lot of them fail. You have a
Mm.
very few select ones that have ever worked, and a lot of them are still are live action adaptations, but they're still from Japan.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, this is not one of those.
Okay.
And having seen the questions that you sent me, we will talk about a certain other anime adaptation later on in this video.
Okay.
Then I have Murder Mystery 2.
Okay.
context, I enjoy the original. I
Mm,
think it's quite fine for an Adam Sandler Netflix movie. It's like,
yeah.
that's watchable. I think
Yeah.
that's perfectly fine. This one is not. It's
Okay.
exactly what you expect from Adam Sandler Netflix original movie.
Mm,
The next one is produced by Adam Sandler, but he's not like anywhere in the movie, and that's The
okay.
Outlaws.
Okay.
Um, it's a premise you've seen before.
Yeah.
Guy marrying girl, meeting the parents for the first time. There's all
Mm,
those messy situations, but he actually thinks they're bank robbers and all
mm,
that. And
okay.
whatever potential you think those ideas have, even though they're familiar,
Yeah.
this is the worst possible version of all of those ideas. It's
Christ.
not funny. There's no wit
Mm,
to anything. Everyone is
yeah.
unlikable. It's a very strange movie.
Mm,
And then weirdly, it's got these awful green screens. It'll have like CGI dogs on screen,
oh, what?
but then it has these incredible in the sense that you
Mm,
actually had the money for it. Set
yeah.
pieces where they're like driving a jeep through a cemetery and knocking all the headstones out and all
Mm,
that, and it's real. Like it's not
mm.
CGI. So the budget of this film, I don't know if it's high, I don't know if it's low, it's just confusing. Then I'm going to have Unwelcome. Well, I've also found it terrible.
Yeah.
Did
I
you end up
think
seeing this one?
I think I've heard of it, but I'm going to be
Okay.
honest. My bottom of the year list from last year has a lot of films that would be like in the middle for other people because I didn't see that
Hmm.
many like really bad films.
That's
So
fair.
what is at the bottom for me is just like really disappointing for most others.
Hmm. Fair.
Yeah.
This is a movie that only like picks up in the
Mm,
last 20 minutes, and the
right.
last 20 minutes, like I wanted the entire film to be like this.
Mm,
Um, then Trolls, third one. I don't
yeah.
remember the subtitle.
Isn't it like World
Uh, it,
Tour or
it
something or Band Together?
No, because I think World Tour was the second one, the one that came out in
Mm,
the pandemic,
yeah.
where Universal were like the first studio to go, you know what? We'll release this directly to streaming, and
Mm.
the world changed from then on. Definitely for worse. Uh, but yeah, it's just annoying. It's so
Yeah.
hyperactive. It doesn't stop. It reminded
Mm,
me like I'm not a parent,
mm,
but if I was, I would like a movie that actually gets my kid to settle down.
yeah.
I don't know that this movie will be it if you want to put this
Mm,
in front of a kid, because this entire film simulates the energy, the
mm,
noise, and the freneticness of a kid, like when they
mm.
don't stop moving, they don't stop all
Yeah.
that. So it is. I found it extremely annoying. I found it painful to watch, genuinely.
I've not seen
Uh,
any of the Trolls films, but I always get the vibe from like when I see a clip of them that it's like a sugar rush in film form.
mhm. All
Hmm.
right, bottom two, The Blackening. I
Okay.
I hated this movie.
Mm,
I did not laugh. I did not chuckle. I did
mm,
not grin once. I was just in
mm.
a foul mood the entire film. Um, I was not invested in it. I don't even. I'll tell you this. I don't
Mm,
even know if the killer reveal at the end, if I was meant to be shocked,
mm.
if I was meant to have seen it coming,
Yeah.
just because I was so utterly uninvested in everything and everyone in this movie.
Mm,
It's a comedy that's not funny, and to me, that's the absolute worst you can
mm.
be as a comedy. In final place, though, the last place came out the
Okay.
week right before The Creator.
Yep.
It cost 20 million more dollars than The Creator.
Okay.
And it's called The Expendables 4. And I love this franchise. I love these actors. I love the idea of let's take the mega action stars from yesteryears,
Yeah.
put them all together, let them have fun.
Mm,
They completely disregard that premise in the
mm,
fourth movie in the franchise. It's gone by this point, and it's sad to see when even a conversation that they're having at someone's door, where Sylvester Stallone goes
mm,
to knock on Jason Statham's door,
mm.
and the background to the outside is completely green screen.
Oh God.
It is terrible in every conceivable way.
Good
And I
God.
cannot find a movie that I disliked, that I was more disappointed in, and that it failed at its very mission statement like this movie
Mm.
did.
I thankfully have never seen any of the Expendables films, but what I remember when they first came out, I was like, I think the first two really intrigued me, but then it just got to the point of like, oh, it's been 10 years now, so I've kind of missed the boat. And now the fact that the fourth one's like dreadful, because I've heard multiple people say how
It is.
abysmal the fourth one is.
It is truly
Mm,
abysmal. But watch the first two.
mm,
The first two are really good. Particularly number two. That's the
mm.
best one for me.
Okay, that's good to know. Because as long as any of them are good, I might actually
Yeah, yeah,
finally get around to watching some of them. Because it's interesting as well. Because like I said, your bottom is literally made up of films that I've generally heard are pretty bad,
yeah.
especially Expendables 4. But mine is like just lackluster films. Like I've got Ferrari as my third to the bottom because that was the
Fair, fair.
first. I think I've said this a couple times on the series already. That was the first time I did the surprise film at London Film Festival, and considering it was like late in the evening, it's like a 2 and a bit hour film. I was fucking knackered that day. And then I
Yeah.
had to sit through like two something hours of Ferrari. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing the surprise film again. I'm in no rush to do that.
See, that's the thing. Usually they're never over 2 hours.
Yeah,
So
that's what.
usually even trying
Yeah,
to guess, you have a shorter like selection of films. I don't know why
yeah.
they did it this year.
I went in with like the preconceived notion that like, oh, it will be around like six, half six, six-ish, and it
Yeah.
will be like an hour and a half, hour and 40 minute film because that's what it's been before. And no, they put it at like 8:45 in the evening, and it's 2 and a bit hours. And by the end of it, I was just, I there were points where like I was sat next to Matt, and he Matt Farley, and he can pretty much vouch for me that I was almost falling asleep the entire time. And then there's like a bit near the end that's like the controversial bit that actually kind of jolted me awake again, and I was like, "Oh, I'm
Oh,
awake.
okay.
Oh, wait, there's only 10 minutes of the film left. Never mind. I'll just doze back off again." But yeah, that I love both of those lists, and I definitely agree with what you said about anime as well because I've not seen many anime, but I've seen enough anime show and films to kind of know exactly what you mean in terms of like it's got a certain sensibility to that culture that kind of helps its storytelling as well. And when you get films like
Yeah.
I don't know most of Hayao Miyazaki's stuff or Your Name or even Suzume that you said
Mhm.
was one of your favorites of last year, they kind of take elements of the culture and turn it into the storytelling, and it kind of works hand in hand. Whereas there are some adaptations which are just just completely miss the ball.
So painful. As
Yeah,
an anime fan, I've suffered through a lot of them.
yeah, it's yeah, it can be a pain. That I again not being like not being massively into anime, I've seen enough like people on YouTube and articles to kind of know which ones to avoid now. Um, so yeah, I've got a good idea of like which ones to go for and which ones to um which ones to steer clear of.
If you need
Anyway,
advice, just let me know.
yeah,
I'm your guy.
yeah. I know there's one that a few years ago when I was doing normal reviews on my channel. I did I did something basically to try and get me more into anime. I reviewed one different anime once a month. So I think one month it'd be a show,
Nice.
then
That's a
it'd
good
be a
idea.
film, then another month it'd be a show. I covered stuff that I already loved, like Spirited Away and Cowboy Bebop, but then it
Yes.
helped me delve into stuff that I'd heard good things about but never seen before. Like Your Lie in April was a first that I watched during that. That was really good. Erased was probably the best new thing I watched when I did that because Erased is just it's just so good. Again, from a storytelling perspective, it's just brilliant. Anyway, I want to just take a moment to kind of delve into your career here on YouTube because you've been doing YouTube for how long now?
How long now? Eight. So I started January 2016. So
Mm,
2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, and now 4. We're into my eighth year. We're
mm.
starting my eighth year at this.
Damn, that's impressive. I mean, I think what was it? I think I started in 2015. There were a lot of us in our group that
Yeah.
kind of started around the same time, so that sounds about right. But I'm intrigued to know what got you into YouTube in the first place, and over the 8 years that you've been doing it, would you also say that you're your approach to making videos has changed, and if so, how has it changed?
Yeah. So what got me into doing this, so around 2011, 2012, so
Mm,
when I was finishing high school, going into uni, that transition, that's when I discovered like film
mm,
reviews
mm,
as like a concept. Because yeah, back home we have our critics, but they're like this small piece on one page of a magazine or a
yeah.
newspaper, but there's no like people your age, my
Mm,
age, like slightly older. There's just these few select old guys
mm,
talking about films, and they always talk about it like the impression you get about film criticism or
mm,
criticism as a whole is like this person that doesn't love what they're
mm,
talking about it. But in 2011, 2012, I discovered on YouTube just the concept of film reviews, and I started watching Chris Stuckman,
mm,
Jeremy Johns, the Schmoes Know. At the time,
mm,
those were the guys, those were the big ones.
mm.
And I think to this day, if you ask anyone who got into this, like the OGs, like
Yeah,
those are the three.
yeah.
So I started watching them, and then I got into it like, oh, okay, they're talking about this movie. I haven't heard about this movie, but let me
Mm,
keep that in mind or take a note of it, and when it comes
mm,
out, I'll remember it. And so that's when I started like going out to watch more movies in the cinema.
mm.
I was already very interested in movies. I was already in love with movies, but a lot of them I would wait for them to play on TV or
Yeah.
something. I would just really go for the stuff I like in the
Mm,
cinema. But this is when I started like going all the time. I said
mm.
2011, 2012, but it's probably more like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Um, and so then into uni a few years, and in 2015, a friend at the time, we were talking movies because
Mm,
they also really liked movie reviews, and they followed Stuckman and they knew all that shit. They
yeah.
also made YouTube videos, not movie reviews, but they made YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Like, you should create a YouTube channel. You should
Mm,
do movie reviews because that's already when you come here to class and
mm.
whatnot, when we're talking together, like what you talk about is movies.
Yeah.
And my whole thing in the channel has always been my reviews are like having a conversation with friends, like how I
Mm,
talk in my videos. Obviously we have cuts in there,
mm,
but that's how I talk to my friends about movies. And so, yeah, okay, I look into it. I buy a camera, I get a microphone,
mm,
and I just start doing it. If you go to my very first video, which
mm,
I have not taken out of YouTube, my bed is on the background. The bed isn't made. My
mm,
sound is terrible. My lighting is terrible. And it's me like hunched on a chair, very mispositioned. I'm not like center frame or
mm,
anything. My hair is not done. It's not arranged,
mm,
and I'm just telling people, "Oh, here's my favorite movies of 2015."
mm,
Um, so that's how I started. Like it was a lot of do it,
mm,
do it, do it. Like for the first year and a half or so, I didn't do my own thumbnails. I had a friend who
mm.
made them. Um, I had a lot of trouble like figuring out how to edit video at first because it's just so
Mm.
overwhelming.
Yeah.
Once you figure it out, it's really easy. It's edits, and I wouldn't even
Yeah.
say I'm a good editor. I
Mm.
can edit. If you give me something to edit, I can do a good job, but I'm not like a professional editor or anything. And there's when it comes to your second question,
Yeah.
has my approach changed? I would say it has. I never like to do scripts for
Mm.
reviews. I've done scripts for myself because I experimented
Yeah.
doing a few video essays. Um, I've experimented doing rankings. I experimented doing reactions. I do a few shorts here and there, list videos. I always have fun with those.
Mm.
So my approach changes depending on what kind of video it is. If it
Yeah.
is a review, a reaction,
Mm.
but generally I don't like to script myself.
Mm.
I like to take my ideas like in bullet points
Yeah.
and say this really worked, and it really worked particularly because
Mm.
there's this perspective, and because I also have
Yeah.
an education in film. I
Mm.
have a bachelor's in sound and image arts. I have a master's in film directing. So I
Mm.
like to bring that perspective as
Mm.
someone who might have not broken into the industry yet, but
Mm.
has like the tools, the education to see things from this perspective. So
Mm.
that's why that's what I find I
Mm.
bring to the table. And then if you want to get into more specifics, like
Mm.
when it comes to comic book movies, I can
Yeah.
always bring not only the perspective of filmmaking, but I can also bring the perspective of I know the comics. I've read the
Mm,
comics all my life.
mm,
Um, so I find that that is my niche when it comes to my approach. So
mm,
no script, but a few notes that I can bounce off and
mm,
extrapolate on, and having
mm,
perspectives of the experience of it all.
mm. Okay, that's quite interesting because I'm kind of similar to you where I used to try and experiment scripting my videos, but I just felt that heavily scripting it just didn't feel authentic. So I'm now kind of in a
No,
similar place to
exactly.
you where like I have some key things I want to address, and usually just reading those specific bullet points makes me immediately go, okay, I know what point that is. I think I know where to go from here, and then the rest of it just kind of comes naturally. And I feel like, again, probably similar to you. I'm in like this nice middle ground where like I don't need to take many notes. I don't need to heavily script stuff. I can just, because we've been
Yeah,
doing it. I mean, I've been doing
talk.
it 9 years. You've been doing it 8 years. It There's like a natural flow that comes from it now because we've been doing it
Yeah.
for this long. Um, but yeah, I totally agree in that sense. It's also interesting as well because I've had some people on this series who do the same sort of thing as us, and they heavily script it, and then there are some people who just completely wing it. And I find that quite interesting, and I love having different people do the same thing on this series because I like
Yeah.
hearing what different approaches people have. Because again, similar to you, I make short films. I used to make loads back in secondary school, not secondary school, college and uni. And I'm trying to get back into it this year. So having that filmmaking mindset, you kind of, what's the word? You kind of put that into the review you're trying to do.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you're coming from the perspective of the filmmaker, and especially where I'm concerned, I try to keep most of my videos positive because I know how hard it is to get something off the ground full stop.
Yeah.
So let alone trying to make a low budget short film, making a massive multi-million dollar whatever must be, I can't even begin to fathom
It's
how.
an undertaking, man.
Yeah, so I completely understand where you're coming from. In terms of how you approach the videos, more than anything. So on that topic, what has been or some of your favorite aspects about doing YouTube and just film criticism in general?
Ooh. Uh, Honestly, it's number one is the people I've
Mm,
met through YouTube, because
mm,
if not for YouTube, I maybe wouldn't be here right now. Like
mm,
in the UK, I definitely wouldn't have met Luke, definitely wouldn't be a
mm,
part of our awesome group chat.
yep.
Wouldn't have met so many people like from the States, because the
Mm,
majority of my audience
mm.
are from the States. Wouldn't have met one of my best friends who I'm about to go to his wedding in like 3 weeks in America.
Oh, that's cool.
So just the amazing people you meet,
Mm,
even the assholes you meet on the comment section.
yeah.
Um, they give you thick skin to keep
Mm,
going. Also just the ways I've experimented here and there, like with
mm,
video essays, its approaches. If I hadn't had a channel, it'd be like, that's a good idea, and it would
mm,
stay here and die here inside my head.
mm,
So just the ways it's motivated me to kind of take these approaches, find these other interesting ideas to develop as
mm,
videos. Um, and the conversations you have, the festival environment, the
mm,
group chats, and just the enormity of people that are just there to talk movies and
mm,
have fun, and we have a lot of banter between us, so those conversations for me are always fun.
mm.
And it's like it's one of those like it's not every week that it happens. Sometimes you have
Mm.
lulls where no screenings are happening, but
Yeah,
if they happen on a regular basis, like, oh, I'm gonna meet my friends today because we're gonna watch a movie,
yeah.
so that's great, and it's all thanks to YouTube that it happened.
Mm. Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same as well because I mean, similar to how you did YouTube, I kind of started my channel as a place to talk about film because I didn't really have anyone of a similar mindset to talk about it with. And I think at the start, doing YouTube, having that outlet was kind of like my favorite aspect, but especially in the last 2 years, that community that you and me are a part of, that we've kind of it keeps expanding, and just the people we've got to know through it is probably the biggest. Um, is probably the biggest highlight, especially in terms of the group that we know, because um, especially Luke, who I will get on this series at some point. Again, I want to get through the backlog
Do
that I've
it.
got.
Do it.
But if it wasn't for Luke, I wouldn't have been able to attend the London Film Festival as a member of the press back in
Mm,
2022. That was the first year I did as press. In previous years, I just attended it as, like, a normal member of the public
yeah.
doing the public screenings. But in 2022, I kind of had a screw it moment. I was like, I'm going to attend it as member of the press this year. I didn't get in for some reason, and then I messaged Luke, and he was like, "Try this," and then that worked, and it's purely down to him that I actually got in, and now
Nice.
yeah.
That
So
was the year we met.
yeah, yeah. There were a lot of people that I will admit, I do apologize for me being back in 2022, because I only knew, like, I think I knew you, Reese, Luke, and like two other people, and then everyone else I was like, hi,
Yeah.
I just do YouTube, and I just mostly stayed a bit quiet outside of the
Yeah.
people that I already knew.
I'm an introvert. I get it. Like when they first created the group, and suddenly I'm in
Mm,
this group with these thousands of, not
yeah.
thousands, but dozens of people I've never heard of, I've never seen. Like I
Mm,
knew Luke, I knew Ben from discussing film. I
mm,
knew Stu like from seeing him, but I didn't
yeah,
know him.
yeah.
I knew Reese, and
Hmm.
then everyone else. I'm like, I don't know who these people are, but hi. I'm
Yeah.
a shy person. I'm an introvert. But yeah, at the time it was like very overwhelming. Like, am I
Mm.
supposed to say hi to this person? Are they with us? Like, you just don't know.
I think what also helped is because of the people that I knew. Like, I think Stu, Luke, and Sarah from Popcorn Chat were the three that really
Hmm.
helped with this. Is that when I did attend in 2022, they kind of helped me introduce. I'm wording this terribly, but they helped introduce me to the others. So gradually,
Mhm.
I think between doing the 2022 one, where I was very awkward and I didn't know anyone outside of like five people, and that year, and then doing the 2023 one, by the time I got to the 2023 one, I was like, oh yeah, that's Paul. Of course that's Paul. That's Charlie. That's Neil. Like, now I
Yeah.
know everyone, and now we just seem like this really dysfunctional family, I guess you could say.
Very functional family.
Yeah.
Whatever do you mean?
But yeah, I feel like I know it. There are still a couple people that I don't know, but
Yeah.
I feel like in the general scheme of things, I feel more comfortable now. So you've already kind of mentioned this a bit anyway, but I didn't know if there were any other specific elements of filmmaking or just film in general that you specifically consider or you hone in on when reviewing or even recommending a film. I've had some people on this series delve more into the cinematography. I've had some people delve more into the acting. Is there anything outside of the filmmaking
Uh,
and directing that you look into?
Well, the thing is, it's not only just you have to look at everything. That's the
Mm,
truth of it. Look at everything, how everything complements the story, how everything complements the ideas of the filmmaker. Like,
mm,
what are they trying to say with this story,
yeah,
and why are they telling it in this way? Because to me, it's not just about the story you're telling; it's how about you're telling it.
yeah.
So it's a very complex thing of and I'm not saying like it's very complex because I am very intelligent. No, not at all. Um, no, but it's a complex thing of it's not just how everything works in itself, it's how they marry into all the other elements. So
Yeah.
for me, the way I found it to break down for myself
Mm,
as someone who has studied the filmmaking and all that, like when you break down to the simplest way I can is there's three main sections.
yeah.
That's narratively, emotionally, and thematically.
Yeah.
If it has any themes, because
Mm,
you don't necessarily need to have any themes, but
mm,
usually films have, even if they don't intend in it.
mm,
So if it works narratively, if it works emotionally, if it works thematically, those are the best of the best movies.
yeah.
Those are like the ones that end up on the top tens. So to me, those are the threads. Like, do the
Mm,
characters work, and you have the emotional through line there? thematically, what is the story trying to say with them telling it this way? And then narratively is the most obvious of
Mm,
the three. Not to say it's the simplest one to achieve, not to say
mm,
it's less important at all.
yeah.
But for me, the way I found to
Mm,
analyze, I start always from those three threads, and then those three threads multiply into all the other sections of the films. But to me, that's how I break it down, and
mm,
it really works. It really works a lot of
yeah.
times.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, and I know a lot. I think we know quite a few people that share that sort of that same sort of like you just got to look at the film as a whole.
Mhm.
Um, because I know there's probably a phase that a lot of us can kind of look back on as like that. Not the pretentious film student sort of thing, but like, oh, I love the cinematography of it, or
Yeah,
I only care about films that are made by auteurs. But like, if you don't look at the whole package, you know
yeah.
that's kind of defeating the point of connecting to the film in the first place. And like you said, there's all these different elements, and those three specific things I think are really good. I mean, I've definitely grown over the years to kind of appreciate all aspects of a film.
For
I
sure.
think those three things are definitely some of the core aspects that make up 99% of every film that's ever made. um, for sure. So moving aside from your career on YouTube, and I just want to delve into like your taste into film now.
Mhm.
Starting with a question that I like to ask everyone because I'm always intrigued as to what the first film was that did this. But if you can possibly remember at all, what was the first or one of the first films that just sparked your love for cinema in the first place?
I don't know if I've ever told you this story because I know
Mm.
I usually when we have our meets with the group,
Mm.
that's always a question that comes up. So I know I've told this story to people in the group. Not sure if I told it to you, but
Okay.
to answer this specific question, there are two different movies.
Okay.
The first one is Gladiator. When I watched the
Right.
original Gladiator, I didn't see it in the cinemas, saw it at home.
Mm.
But as soon as I watched it, it was the first movie that I remember going, this is being like made by
Yeah.
people. Like
Mm.
there are cameras, there are people behind the cameras. Like the swords were manufactured specifically for this film. Like
Mm.
there's a staging
Mm.
to everything. Like it looks very much like they're trying to kill each other, but they're just pretending.
Mm.
And so it was that first film that I wanted to see the behind the scenes of. I want to
Mm.
see how this got made. And it is one of my favorite movies of all time. The second movie, to answer that question, is Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins. Now,
Okay.
I grew up as a fan of superheroes. I
Yeah.
grew up as a fan of comics, and being a fan of comics, that included reading Batman. That included my first love for Batman was sparked with Batman the Animated Series because I'm a
Yeah.
90s kid.
Mm.
And I never caught any of the other Batman movies in the cinema
Mm.
because I only knew of the animated series. And then this movie, when I'm 12 years old, like it's coming out,
Yeah.
directed by Christopher Nolan. At the time, I didn't know what a
Yeah.
Christopher Nolan was, but it's Batman,
Yeah.
so I want to see it. So I went to see it, and by the end of that film, that's when I told myself,
Mm.
this is what I want to do. I want to be a film director.
Yeah.
And since then, I've kept on loving Christopher Nolan. He's my favorite working director. Yeah, but those are the two movies. The first Gladiator, because it made me want to see how other sausage is made, as they
Yeah.
say. And then Batman Begins was the one that made me realize it's what I want to do. It's not just that I
Mm.
love it, I want to do it.
Mm. Yeah. I love I love those two answers. Yeah, I love the reasoning as well because um yeah, especially with a film like Gladiator, there is so much to. It's very similar to the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where like there's so much to find out about how it was made and the behind the scenes,
Yeah.
where like you could just spend hours looking into
Yeah,
that.
and I did spend hours.
Yeah.
I at one point I was watching that extras DVD more
Mm,
than the film DVD.
I love that. I always feel like there are specific films where you just do that. Like I think for
Yeah.
me it was Inception, funnily enough, another Christopher Nolan film.
Mhm.
That for me is one of I think the film that kind of sparked my love for cinema. And like you said, I think I spent more time watching the behind the scenes because there's a lot of. You probably felt the same way with Gladiator as well. There's a lot of moments where you're just like, how do you do? How is that done? Like, how do you
Yeah.
get from point A to point B, and that is the result that's ended up on the screen. Um, but yeah, I
And
love
it
this
shows
project.
you what a great director is, because it's all about problem solving. So like,
Mm,
oh, I have this idea, and then everyone is, okay, cool. How do we do that? Like
mm,
in the case of Inception, practically like the corridor. And he has the
mm,
idea, oh, let's create this corridor with a rig and like it'll
mm.
move and he's just inside, blah blah. And
Yeah,
it's amazing. It's so incredible.
yeah. That I think that one featurette on the DVD and Blu-ray of them doing the corridor scene, I watched like God knows how many times because
Yeah.
I think that and the bit in the restaurant where it kind of tilts slightly, that whole
Mhm.
bit, I was like, I just want to know, like, logistically, just how. I just want to know. I just want to know how. So on a similar note, you've already mentioned a couple of classics like, I said Benjamin Button for a minute. Not what I was meant to say. Batman Begins and Gladiator. But I'm curious, and I've asked this question to a couple of people on this series already because get some interesting answers. Are there any popular or classic films that you have still yet to dive into, or that you still haven't seen yet?
There are a lot, quite a lot. They're not
Okay.
like the main ones that you think of, but they're like
Mm.
just the next ones that you think of. Like
Okay.
up until I've seen it at this point, but for example, up until last year,
Mm.
I went to see the Brokeback Mountain play that we had playing here with
Yeah. Yeah.
Mike Feist and Lucas Hedges. And only after seeing the play did I see the movie for the first time. I
Mm.
had never seen the movie.
Yeah.
Um, but some good examples are, I don't know how good of an example this is actually, but I've never seen The Graduate. I know the
Mm.
ending.
Yeah.
I know like you're seducing me, Mrs. Robinson, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've never seen Chinatown.
Okay.
Um, I had never, well, I've seen it at this point, but I had never seen the original West Side Story right before the Spielberg one came out.
Yeah.
Um, what else?
Funnily
I've
enough, you're
never
listing
seen, yeah.
films that I've never seen either. So yeah,
See,
yeah, I've
see,
never
we
seen
got
half
to
of
knock
these.
him out. I've never seen any of the Dirty Harry movies, for instance.
No, me neither.
I've seen Good and Bad and the Ugly.
Yeah.
I've seen Once Upon a Time in the West, but I've
Mm.
never seen For a Few Dollars More.
Mm.
That's one I'm missing as well.
Mm.
Um, what else? Because there are a lot I haven't
Mm.
seen. There are a lot more than these. I think I could find like even more shocking ones that I haven't seen.
I
Um,
had one person on a previous episode. They started listing off the films they hadn't seen, and I was like, "So you're basically just listing off the IMDb top 250 then?" Because
exactly.
because
Top
they were like
250.
Citizen Kane, The Godfather, Shawshank, and I'm like, "Yeah, so you might as well just be reading the the IMDb list."
Yeah.
Um,
I've never seen Cool Hand Luke, for
no,
instance.
I've not seen that. It's pretty much every
Yeah.
film you've listed, I've not seen either. So,
Yeah, it's never like the ones, it's never the Citizen Kanes, the Casablancas, because I've seen
yeah.
those, but like the ones that come right after that, I never seen a lot
Mm,
of those. I've seen quite a few, but I've not seen a lot. His Girl Friday, I've never seen
mm,
that. I know what all of these are, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
I just haven't seen them. Bicycle Thieves, I've never seen them. A
Mm,
teacher from my BA really wanted me to watch this
mm,
film, and I never did. Um, yeah, now a lot of the ones I have seen are showing up,
mm,
but there are quite a few I've never seen.
mm,
Red Shoes, never seen the Red Shoes, never seen
mm,
the original Manchurian Candidate.
mm,
I've never seen a lot of the Bonds. So
mm.
before the pandemic,
Yeah.
before everything got delayed, okay, No Time to Die is coming out like in April or
Mm,
whatever. I'm gonna start watching the Bond movies that I have
mm,
never seen because my dad was big into Bond. I got into Bond with Daniel Craig.
yeah.
Like he was the first Bond I saw on the big screen, but I knew of Pierce Brosnan,
Yeah.
but I didn't connect with his Bond. So there are a lot of Bond movies that I'd never seen. So I started watching the Connery ones, started making it into the Roger Moore ones.
Yeah.
Honestly, I got tired of those very fast. I could barely pay attention to those. Um, So and then eventually I stopped,
Yeah.
and then the world kept moving on. I kept moving
Mm.
on, and eventually, like, oh, No Time to Die is actually coming out. I don't have time to watch all the Bonds I missed, but I can watch the Daniel Craig ones
Mm.
just to refresh myself on his story.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. So to this
Mm.
day, I haven't watched like most of the Roger Moore ones. I have never seen a single one of Timothy Dalton's
Mm.
Bond movies.
Yeah.
I have seen two of the Pierce Brosnan ones, but I've not seen the
Mm.
other two. So I don't know if I saw the good ones, if I saw the bad ones, if I saw one of each.
Mm.
Um, but yeah,
Mm.
never seen Paths of Glory. That's another one I've never
Mm.
seen.
Paths of Glory
Um,
is that's one of the only ones you've listed that I have actually seen. It's very
okay.
good for early. I think it's early Kubrick, so it is very good. But I'm in the same sort of boat with the Bond films as well because I don't know. It's not that they've never appealed to me. It's just that
Mhm.
there's like 50, like there's
Yeah.
lots of films to get through, and it's just finding the time. I think,
And all of them are long. It's like the
yeah,
Bond movies have always been long, or at least
yeah,
always felt long.
yeah. That is very true. I think the only like old ones I've seen, like this is before Pierce Brosnan. I think the only ones I've seen all the way through is Goldfinger because I remember watching it when it used to be on ITV. Used to show them all the time. I think they still do.
Mhm.
And Goldfinger was one of the few ones that I actually can recollect. Like, oh yeah, I've definitely seen that all the way through. All the others, like Living Daylights, Thunderball, um, Moonraker, is that it? Yeah, all of those
Moonraker,
ones.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like I'm pretty sure I've seen bits of them, but I've not seen them enough of them to count of like no, I've not
Yeah.
watched them. But with Pierce Brosnan, the only one of his this pains me. The only one of his I've seen is the last one, which is Die Another Day, and that is one of the worst.
Oh, yeah.
Is
That's the one with the tsunami, right? Or the avalanche or
Yeah, he just
yeah.
like he's driving a car 1 minute and then he's surfing a like yeah. Oh, don't
Yeah,
remind me
exactly.
of that. Oh, oh Christ.
That's the scene from the movie.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's so many other things wrong with that as well, like the fact that the bad guy is a white bloke, but it turns out oh he used
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Asian but had like a plastic surgery to make himself look. Just there's so many things wrong with that film, which is why I'm
Would
glad.
never happen today.
No, no, it's just. I'm kind of glad the Craig ones exist because I
Mhm.
think up to that point, none of the Bond films had been like connected, and all of the Craig ones have like an ongoing continuity. And
They're the only ones. They're the
yeah,
only ones that like have a story arc
mm,
in between them all.
yeah. And I actually, I don't know what the general consensus is on that, but I'm one of the few people. I quite like the fact that it does that because it actually gives it
Oh
a.
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, whereas like all the old ones are like, oh, now he's doing this mission and now he's on this, and you can't really like latch onto it in terms of like a relatable sense. Whereas having an ongoing story kind of gives it a bit more weight. I guess you could say. So on the other end of the spectrum, going from popular films and classics, what is one of or some of the worst films you've ever seen? If you could like name just like a couple off the top of your head.
I mean, though my least favorite movie of all time. I despise this movie with a passion.
Mm,
It's not that I make a living off my YouTube channel, but I've
mm,
always said whenever I talk about this, I cannot make enough money to convince me to review this movie.
mm.
Like I will never talk about this movie,
Yeah,
and that is Dragon Ball Evolution.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Remember when I told you we were going to talk about an anime adaptation
Yep.
later in this video? Well, the time has come.
Oh
So
dear.
like I said, I grew up with anime. I love
Mm,
so many anime. Dragon Ball is the greatest anime of all time,
mm.
bar none to me.
Yeah.
Um, and this movie came out at a time where I still was foolishly not aware of the anime movies are bad. It
Yeah.
came out in 2009,
Mm,
which means I was 16 years old. I was in the perfect age to be like, yeah, that was a cool Dragon Ball movie.
mm,
Um, And I didn't even go out to the cinema to watch it because it didn't
Mm,
get released in the cinema where I'm from.
yeah,
So I remember the ad was playing on TV of like,
yeah,
oh, they're gonna play this on TV on New Year's Day.
mm,
Okay, so whatever New Year's that was, I was
mm,
like, all right, let's stay at home, watch this one.
yeah.
And I hated it so much. That was the first time, not the only
Mm,
time, but the first time I remember watching something and
mm.
thinking, I am never getting that time back. Never. Those 90, 100 minutes gone.
Good God.
And I wasted it on this movie.
Mm,
It is truly awful. It doesn't
mm,
understand the sensibilities of the story. It doesn't understand the
mm,
characterizations. It just everything that anything that it could do well,
mm,
it doesn't do it. It takes this awful approach that completely destroys what is
mm.
endearing, exciting,
Mm,
powerful, meaningful about the story of Dragon Ball.
yeah,
Um, and I don't even remember another movie that I can give an example of because when you say worst film, one of the worst, there's no competition. Like
yeah.
any other movie that I hate, nothing comes close
Mm.
to this.
I mean, thankfully I've never seen Dragon Ball Evolution, and I've not watched the anime, but I know how like devoted of a fan base it has. So I know like fans of the show like yourself would
Mhm.
have very much reason to hate it more than like a casual viewer who probably doesn't know much about the show. But I think even the clips I've seen, knowing the bits and pieces that I do know about the show, which is very little, even just watching the clips, I'm just like something just from a core film perspective doesn't seem
Mhm.
right. I think, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like part of the whole thing of like Dragon Ball, the show anyway, is meant to be very over the top, not taking themselves that
Yeah,
seriously. And
100%.
they, in the film, immediately dunk it into like a high school American setting. And that immediately is two clashing things that are not like, if you told me those two things somehow ended up in the same movie, that, you know, that to me immediately just doesn't go like, oh, that's not right.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen.
I even without you having ever seen it, I can give
Yeah.
you a perfect example
Mm.
of there are things that Goku in the show
Yeah.
says and does
Yeah.
that are charming, that can be funny because
Yeah.
he's like 10 years old at the start
Yeah.
of the show. He's like 10 years old and
Mm.
he grew up like in a forest with his
Yeah.
grandfather. He didn't
Mm.
go to school. He doesn't have like
Mm.
social cultural norms. So there are things that he does and says to Bulma, a
Yeah.
girl, like 17-year-old girl, that are like,
Mm.
haha, that's weird and it's funny because he has no awareness.
Mm. Mm.
Those things are, he does and says some of those things in a movie, but in a
Yeah.
movie, he's a high school kid who's
Yeah.
like 18, grew up all around people, so he has an awareness to it all. And so it comes across as creepy and rude and
Yeah.
off-putting, and it doesn't work at all.
Mm. Yeah. Good God. Even just hearing that, I'm like, oh God. Even that just again putting the bloody high school setting in there just immediately. It immediately kind of counteracts half the things that
Yeah.
work in the show, and I've seen Chris Stuckman's like half an hour
Mhm.
long rant about the film and where he delves into it. And there are even like small bits that in the show, again because it's over the top and it's not that serious, work. But then, like for example, Goku is just eating a leg of meat.
Yeah.
In the show, makes sense. In the film, because he's a high school kid, like leaning up against like a Lamborghini, just eating a leg of like lamb, just looks weird and just
And he
makes no
doesn't ever do it
sense.
before or again in the movie.
No,
Like, why
no,
is he doing that?
it just makes no sense. And there's things in again, I've not seen the film fully, but I've seen enough clips through like Chris Duttman's review to know that like whenever it tries to go over the top to be like the show, it doesn't work because it's grounded
Yeah.
itself and it's immediately kind of screwed
Yeah.
itself.
It goes to what I was saying before when we were talking about anime adaptations in general. Like, it's
Yeah.
too normal to be
Mm.
Dragon Ball. Like,
Mm.
Dragon Ball is not normal. It's not a normal story. It doesn't have normal characters. That's what's so
Yeah.
cool and weird and unique about it, and the
Yeah.
movie just makes
Mm.
itself too normal, too regular.
Mm. I suppose like this is Speed Racer is not one of my favorite. It's a film that
Mm,
I admire, but I'm not a massive fan of it. I think it's fine, but at least the Wachowskis tried to replicate
yeah,
like how over the top the film was, whereas Dragon Ball Evolution is just immediately on a hide into nothing because it's created a barrier already. Like this is what
yeah.
the show is meant to be, but oh wait, we've made this thing. Oh, we've kind of screwed ourselves in the process. Whereas Speed Racer knows how weird it's trying to be. Like
Yeah.
again, I don't love that film, but I at least appreciate what they were trying to do. And it doesn't always work in that film, but at least that's the only other film I can really compare it to. Even though one's crap and the other one's actually, okay. I'll let the viewers decide
Yeah.
which one I'm on about.
If you want to see a good anime adaptation, and this is a somewhat hot take
Mm,
online, it's the 2017 American version of Ghost in the Shell is
okay.
amazing.
I
Uh,
was intrigued to watch that, but I never got around to
it
watching it.
it is very good. It got a lot of
Mm,
controversy because of Scarlett Johansson being
yeah.
cast in the role, but when you actually see the movie, that's
Mm,
like it's part of the point they're trying to make with the story. So it's
mm,
a really, really great movie. It doesn't touch
mm,
the original because the original is a
mm,
masterpiece. It's
yeah.
5 out of 5, A plus, whatever.
Mm,
It's perfect. But this one is really good. I would say it's
mm,
overall the best live action anime adaptation,
mm.
unless something is like escaping my mind.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. That is one of the few anime films I have actually seen, the original Ghost in the Shell, and it is so good. I'm overdue a rewatch of it, but from what I remember of it, I remember it just being like visually fucking like really fucking impressive.
Yeah.
um, right, so now we're on to the second to last question, which is the big one that I
Oh.
ask everybody, and is the one that I like having the most fun with. Because again, similar to the previous two questions, I like just seeing what people's answers are
Mhm.
going to be because I think I've had a couple people repeat answers. So one person said one film and then someone else said another that was the same. But I'm intrigued to know if you were stranded on a desert island and could only choose 5 films to have with you, what are you choosing and why?
It's so tough. Okay, just movies. So 5 of them. I know I'm taking The Lion King.
Mm,
That's for sure. There's no question about that.
yep.
I am taking actually Avengers Endgame is my favorite movie,
Okay.
but before that, it was the original Avengers,
Yep.
and I would love to take Avengers Endgame, but I'm not having Avengers Endgame without the original Avengers. So Lion
Mm,
King, the original Avengers.
mm,
I'm taking. Let me just check my top 10 movies of all time if I'm missing anything.
okay.
Um, then I'm taking About Time because About
Okay.
Time is it's tied for greatest romance of all time in a
Mm,
movie, but it's also the movie that picks me up when I'm feeling blue. I need a comfort movie. It's
mm,
About Time that I watch.
mm.
So we got 3. Treasure Planet.
Nice
I
choice.
gotta take Treasure Planet. And what's the last one? There are several choices I could make, but
Mm,
because I already have Avengers, that's okay. I can leave the rest of the MCU out.
mm.
I think I'm gonna go Man of Steel.
Okay.
Man of Steel is a very important movie to me. It's
Mm,
a movie I didn't love at first, but eventually fell in love with it. But it's profound, it's
mm.
philosophical, and somehow it comes from Zack Snyder, who also offers his action and
Mm,
bombastic set pieces and all that.
yeah.
And it was the movie that made me first realized, oh, Superman can be an interesting character.
Mm,
Because I didn't care for Superman in the comics. I never cared for the Christopher Reeve movies. I
mm.
still don't. Sorry. They're very important movies. I
Yeah.
don't think they are good movies. But the Man of Steel movie is very special, and it's got one of Hans Zimmer's greatest
Mm.
scores. I don't care how hot of a take that is.
I I quite like. I really like the fact that you've got the best of both right there. You've got DC and a Marvel, and
Yeah, true.
you're not just stuck with one or the other. You've got like a nice example from
I'm not a
both.
shill, see?
Yeah, you've also in terms of MCU things, I think you've picked one of the strongest MCU films. I think Neil picked the first Avengers film as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And to be honest, I can't. I mean, say what you will about Joss Whedon now, but like in terms of a
Yeah, as
perfect,
a person,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of like a perfectly well-rounded, incredibly rewatchable and entertaining like comic book film, the first Avengers is like one of the better ones that's
Yeah.
ever come out. Um, like I remember seeing that.
It it what
Yeah,
it
sorry.
felt like no, 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 it's okay. It felt to me that movie is when the MCU was truly born because it
Mm,
wasn't not only did they prove, oh, this can be done,
yeah,
it can be done great. It can
yeah.
be done in tip-top form. All the strengths of a film are like
Mm,
shining through in this film, and
yeah.
they made it somehow.
Yeah, and I also feel like in terms of from a writing standpoint as well, the first Avengers film still holds up.
Yeah,
Like there's lines in that film which were funny back in 2012. They're still funny now. Like I think because of how straightforward they are as well. Like doth mother know you weareth her drapes is still bloody funny. Um
Hulk smash.
yeah, Hulk smash. And then like the one line that I never quite got on the first viewing, but like I think it was like my fourth or fifth when I saw it on TV. It's just like I think it's the bit where Tony Stark's just saying something and he goes, "That guy's playing Gallagher. You never thought we'd
Mm,
notice, but he is." And then it just cuts back to him, the guy just like booting Gallagher back up again, like that. There's so many funny lines in that film, and
yeah.
I think I mean there are a lot of entertaining, fun MCU films, but that first Avengers film, probably tied with Infinity War and Endgame, is like one of the most rewatchable
Oh
as
yeah.
well because like I could watch the first Avengers God knows how many times and never get bored of it.
100%.
Um, I can't say the same about Man of Steel because I've only seen it once and it was quite a few years ago, so I need to like revisit that because I remember liking it. Um, and now that you've said that like it was a film that you weren't a massive fan of but grew to love it, I'm tempted to give it another go because nothing Zack Snyder's made in recent years has really blown me away. So I want to try and give
Yeah.
it another, especially some of his earlier stuff like 300 and Watchmen. I still love those films. Um, but I do want to, and I like the choice of About Time as well. It's a nice little small film that just kind of breaks it up a little bit. I love that choice. I
Yeah.
really love that. I haven't watched it though. That's the annoying part.
Oh, you've never seen it? You're in for a
No,
treat.
I it
I'm jealous because you get to watch it for the first time, and
I
it's amazing.
I like Richard Curtis as a writer, and I've heard it is one of his better films. So
It's
I,
his
I
best
need
film.
I need to get to. I mean, I love Four Weddings and a Funeral because it's so
Ah,
quintessentially
yeah.
British. In like, well, that can be for some people that can be a bad thing, but I don't care. I like that.
Nah, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. As someone
Um,
who's not British, I think it's a good thing.
I'm also a massive like Blackadder is one of my favorite comedies of all time
Mm,
shows, but yeah, About Time is one of those films that I need to watch, but it's just escaped me for whatever reason, and I do need to get around to watching it. So the last question, just to round things off, very simple
mhm.
one, and again, this will probably be like quite a big question considering we're right at the start of the year. Is that what any immediate upcoming like releases that you can think of off the top of your head that you're specifically looking forward to?
Uh, so many. I had a lot of honorable mentions when I made my top 10 most
Mm,
anticipated movies, but Dune Part 2 is definitely my number one. It's coming out around my
mm,
birthday, which is extra exciting. But
mm.
we should have gotten this movie back in November.
Yeah.
But that's kind of that's the easily the number one. I'm also very much looking forward to The Fall Guy. I
Mm,
think that movie looks fantastic, just like a
mm,
ton of fun.
mm,
Um It's got my favorite working actor in it,
Yeah,
Ryan Gosling.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm with you on that one. Ryan Gosling
yeah,
is hands down my favorite actor working today. Has been since I saw
100%.
Drive.
Yes,
Yeah.
because he just does it all believably. He's a
Mm,
believable action star. He can be romantic, charming, silly,
yeah.
dramatic when
Mm,
needed. Like he's incredible.
yeah. He perfectly ticks every box, and I've
Yeah.
never seen a film with him in it where he's like the odd one, and like like you see a film and like all
Hmm.
the cast are good but there's one or two performances
Yeah.
where it's like that doesn't work. Every film I
It's
see him
never him.
in, no, it's never him, whether it's La La Land, Crazy Stupid Love, bloody hell, I could list his whole filmography. I've yet to see him.
Drive, The Nice Guys,
Yeah,
Place Beyond the Pines.
yeah. Oh, I need to rewatch Place Beyond the Pines as well, because that's another brilliantly underrated film as well.
It is.
Hmm.
Um, what else coming out? Deadpool 3, of course. I'm looking forward to
Hmm.
Deadpool 3. Um, Godzilla X Kong. Uh,
Hmm.
just we need a WWE main WrestleMania style movies, and that's the
Hmm.
one we're getting.
Yeah.
Um, just a monster mash, and I can wait for it.
Hmm.
Uh, what else? Nosferatu looks, the little glimpses we've gotten
Yeah.
look really, really good. Madam Web. I need to shout out Madam Web, and I'm only being 50% ironic because yes, it
Yeah.
looks terrible, but it looks so terrible.
Hmm.
It's one of those I have to be there to witness just how
Yeah.
terrible it actually is.
Hmm.
It's a car crash you want to be in the first row for, and
Yeah.
I definitely want to be in the first row for that. Um, just everything that comes out about this movie
Mm,
genuinely makes me want to see it more and more
mm,
and more. Not for the reasons they want it, but nevertheless, I want to see it more with everything, with every
yeah.
piece of marketing I get.
I will admit, when the first trailer came out, I was like, you know what, it looks fine, but you know what, I'll give it a watch probably when it comes out. And like you said, the more stuff that's come out, the more I'm like, you know what, I'm actually kind of intrigued. Like, not because it looks good, but just because there's a lot of questionable things about the film.
Yeah, too many, if you ask me.
But yeah, there's some interesting ones that I like the Godzilla and Kong films. I This is the thing. I enjoyed Godzilla versus Kong, but at the same time, I'm having trouble remembering that much about it, which is a bit of an issue. I loved Gareth Edwards' Godzilla. Absolutely adore that
Okay.
film. I enjoyed Skull Island quite a lot as well because it didn't take itself that seriously, but it committed to the Vietnam like aspect as
That's
well.
my favorite by far of
Mm,
the Monsterverse because
mm,
it's an effective commentary on
mm,
Vietnam and the
mm.
wastefulness of it
Yeah,
all. Like, why did that happen? Why so many soldiers went to die for
yeah,
nothing?
yeah.
And that's exactly what the movie's doing. So that's
Mm,
easily my favorite one in the
mm.
Monsterverse.
Yeah, it's that. I think for me, it's my second favorite. Like that first Gareth Edwards Godzilla film. I've got a soft spot for anything Gareth Edwards makes because I know a lot of people like to dump on him for like his movies look good, but script wise they're not great. I beg to differ. Like I think everything he does is, I mean, some things are not perfect, but I think I, I'm mumbling my words here, but I think I don't think he's made a bad film today. Like Monsters, Rogue One, Godzilla, Creator. I think they're all visually great, but I think story wise they're all really good as well. I think King of the Monsters is the only one that I wasn't a massive fan of. Like, don't get me wrong, it's got some great
Yeah.
moments in it, but I don't remember much about it. Whereas Godzilla versus Kong, I know that I enjoyed it. I just need to, revisit it.
Yeah. The King of the Monsters is easily my least favorite in the
Mm,
Monsterverse. I do not like that movie.
mm. Which again, that annoyed me because I remember when the trailer for that came out, and it was
Yeah, the trailers looked good.
yeah, the first trailer they released where it's all set to like classical music, and you see, I
Mhm.
think it's Mothra like silhouetted against this
Yeah.
blue like sky, just opening her wings. Like I was like, that trailer is phenomenal, And then like a few years later, I finally watched the film, and I'm like, it's it's not it's not that good. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not
Mhm.
amazing either. Um,
It was heart crushing because that came back to back. I remember I went to see Godzilla King of the Monsters and immediately after Dark Phoenix that year.
oh god, I knew it came out around about the time of something else bad, but I didn't. I forgot it was. I'd forgotten about Dark Phoenix as well.
Yeah.
Which me and Stu both tweeted the same thing at the same time by accident, which was this has like the best walking up the stairs scene in the world, where Xavier's just being dragged up the stairs, and it's like so unintentionally funny. Dear. Yeah, I'm not revisiting Dark Phoenix. It's definitely not rewatching that. Anyway,
I already have.
anyway, it's been great to talk to you, Ren. Now's the time to let just everyone know where they can find you on the World Wide Web. I need to think of a better way of wording this outro bit, but where can they
Stalk me
find you?
online, not on the streets. Well, thank you very much for having me. It was really fun to chat movies with you, as it always is,
Mm.
whether we're on separate screens or we're sitting next to each other. You can find me mostly everywhere at Ren Geekness on YouTube, on our way to 10,000 subscribers. So if you want to join the party,
Mm.
come on over because we're going to the London Film Festival later this year. We might not go to Venice, but try Toronto this year. So that's going to
Okay.
be fun. So yeah, YouTube, Ren Geekness, Letterboxd, Ren Geekness, Twitter, Ren Geekness, and then I'm on Instagram at Ren Vieira 93. It's more of a personal account, but I always let you know what I'm watching, when I'm watching it. And that's it. I don't have any social media presence anywhere else. But thank you so much for having me. And I'm excited to talk more movies as the year goes on.
Yeah, no, it's been great having you on. I've loved talking about all things film, even if it has been just an excuse for you to rant about Dragon Ball Evolution and me just to
Ah,
champion it
you
on
you
even
did
more.
not you only saw like 1% of it. So I controlled myself.
I don't think I've had anyone like specifically just kind of dig into one film specifically before, but on this series. But
Aha.
I mean, we're only on this is the 10th episode of For the Love of Film, which I'm glad I've got to this point. But I can't wait to see what other people like. I just know someone down the line is just going to spend like half an hour really ripping a film apart. But anyway, it's been great having you on. Thank you everyone for watching. If you like the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. All of Ren's socials will be in, or as many as I can fit in the description will be there. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye.